Hello and welcome back to the channel. Well, the DLC is finally here, and I'm sure the question you're all wondering is it any good? Is it worth buying? And we'll get to that. First though, I want to cover what was added in the update. Firstly, we got two new survivors, Railgunner and Void Fiend. Railgunner is essentially the sniper from the first game, dealing high damage to individual targets rather than crowd control. She has a primary that acts a lot like the Zorg ZF-1 from the Fifth Element. Her secondary is a scope shot that can deal massive damage, especially if you hit the enemy in the crit box. Void Fiend is an interesting character. Its main gameplay mechanic is based around its corruption level, a meter that is constantly filling up. In its base form, it shoots a laser that deals good damage but is somewhat slow firing. Finally, the ultimate ability heals Void Fiend while consuming from the corruption meter. However, if you let the corruption meter fill up completely, then Void Fiend transforms into Berserker mode. In this form, it shoots a massive laser for lots of damage, but only a short range, and the ultimate consumes your health to extend the Berserker form. Now, both characters can be good when used in the right hands, but there are some problems to each character that should be addressed. With the Railgunner, the primary attack focuses on the closest enemy. However, what I did not mention is that it doesn't really deal high damage. While on paper it looks good for crowd control, I died more than a few times trying to clear out the teleporter and give myself room to breathe. I found it was most effective as a get-off-me gun for whenever an enemy was too close to use your scope. Otherwise, you have to get good at hitting those crit boxes with the scope to clear out monsters. Void Fiend's problems, however, are a little bigger than one ability not dealing enough damage. The corruption mechanic is a very cool idea, but I'm not quite so sure that it was implemented well. What I've found is that you have to constantly monitor the corruption. Otherwise, you may not be able to heal if you accidentally transform at the wrong time. Also, whenever you heal in the transform state, you revert to the base form. So, say you need to heal up a bit of HP, so you step inside an interstellar desk plant ring. Congratulations, you're now back to base form. You transform, but your health is a little low? No problem, you got gnarled wood spray, and never mind, you're back to your base form. Honestly, the best way that I found to play this character is to spam the ultimate button on my keyboard and build attack speed. I ended up never seeing the transform state because there was never a need. It's a shame that the most powerful state ended up being more of a hindrance than a boon. Moving on to items, there were a lot of new items added. We got several whites, greens, reds, lunars, and a whole new category, void items. These are copies of other items but corrupted, and they also corrupt the item that they're based off of. For instance, there's a void item called Safer Space, which is a copy of Tougher Times. However, once you pick it up, every Tougher Times in your inventory converts to Safer Spaces. We also got several new stages, all of which are accompanied by their own music and are visually stunning. We also got some new standard and boss enemies, as well as a new final boss. We also got a new game mode, the Simulacrum. In this game mode, you have to fend off waves of enemies on copies of maps we'd normally see. Every 5 stages, the safe area moves. Every 10 stages, and you go to a new location. It's a cool game mode if you're into the infinite wave gameplay. That's the general gist of what was added. Now it's time to answer the question you're still asking, should I buy it? And the answer is... maybe. It's complicated. Man, this is gonna be difficult. So like I mentioned, there was a lot of content added. However, with it came a lot of bugs. For instance, the momentum in this game was completely overhauled, which has led to numerous bugs. The most infamous at the time of recording is found when you do the complicated setup of falling off a cliff. I'm serious, if you fall off a cliff and get teleported back onto the map, you too can experience this bug. What happens is, instead of your character landing back on the map, you preserve all of your downward momentum. But since the game can't move you downwards through the floor, it shoots you forward at a high speed. And if you're facing a cliff, you get to do it all over again. Also in the Simulacrum, when the circle is moving, sometimes the pathing of it can be non-existent. Several players have reported that the safe space has gone through walls and up cliffs that they couldn't follow, causing them to die in the void between waves rather than actually fighting. When the transformed Void Fiend consumes health to maintain the transformed state, the game calculates crowbar damage into how much health is lost. I've heard people say that trying to extend their corrupted states ends up dealing severe amounts of damage to themselves due to this. Another bug people have found is jump pads, which are usually on every level. they don't send you to the right spot every time anymore, so you're never quite sure where you're gonna end up. On every stage, there are void seeds that can spawn randomly now, and being inside the affected area damages players like they're in the void. However, when the player first spawns into the map, the game doesn't check to see if the player spawns into one of these void bubbles, causing some to die immediately upon spawning. So now we come back to the question, is it worth it? And here are my honest thoughts. If this were a free update, then it would have been an amazing update. With this much content, gamers everywhere would have been thrilled by this. Any bugs would easily be dismissed since it's a small dev team and we trust them to patch it. But things have changed now since it's a paid update. If you have the money to burn, then yeah, go get yourself the update. But for everyone else, this is a hard pill to swallow, essentially since you're paying for bugs right now. At the time of recording, the DLC and the game are on sale, but assuming the patch doesn't roll out before the sale price ends, it's going to cost you $15 for the DLC. If you're buying the game as well, the grand total is now $40 before tax, and that's starting to add up. What I think the main contributor to all of this problem right now is the devs wanted to have an amazing DLC, so they promised a lot. However, since they are a small team, they just didn't have the time or the manpower to test everything. So I believe that what happened is, in an effort to please the public, they overextended themselves, meaning that they couldn't iron out the bugs they found because they needed to add more content. And the thing is, I wanted to love this game. I wanted to make a video saying this was amazing and you should definitely go buy it now. I really love this game and have put almost 800 hours into it, but I just can't confidently recommend the DLC. Because as it stands now, you either pay less for a broken, buggy update on the idea that it'll get patched to perfection later, or you spend more later when it's actually better. If you decide to buy the DLC at all, or just avoid all of this, that's a choice you'll have to make. To end this video on a positive note, however, as I was editing this video together, I did come across some notes from the devs on Steam saying that they have listened to community feedback and that they will be patching the bugs in the game. So a lot of the bugs that I've mentioned will be patched. Some weren't mentioned, but hopefully that they will be, and we shall see where things go from here.